Hello and welcome to another episode of AI Heroes. We're here live from Cannes. We're at Insights Lighthouse. I'm here with Flemming. Flemming, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you here. Maybe for our audience, give them a little bit of background. You just shared kind of an incredible career with me. Just kind of break that down into 60 seconds for the listeners.
Okay, so I worked in and around Insights for 37 years, and I worked in a couple of different organizations, from the more traditional Mars, both in confectionery and in ice cream when it was a business development opportunity. I've worked at Levi's, I was at Jeans, I worked for IKEA, both into IKEA Systems and IKEA Retail. I've actually built the Insights organizations for both those two parts of IKEA, Clark Shoes, and most recently I've been building out the Insights organization for Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein, leading Tommy Hilfiger globally and Calvin Klein in Europe. I think it's also worth saying that most of my positions from sort of Levi's onwards have been started in Insights, but from there they've always evolved into some sort of strategy, either as responsible business strategy at Levi's and/or brand strategy, brand operations, and even financial controlling in my Tommy role, which is probably the broadest role I've ever managed to have.
Yeah, that's what happens when you put your hand up too often in a meeting and say...
I didn't even put my hand up in the end. I stopped.
Fantastic. So 37 years across a whole bunch of different companies. Talk to me a little bit about that progression from Insights through to strategy. Obviously the two are so inextricably linked, but what's your kind of philosophy on how they're linked and how companies should be thinking more about insights-driven strategy?
Listen, I think I was lucky because I started as an insights functional expert in my first role at Mars, and I did what most insights people do, is I learned a lot about techniques and I got very good at it. I had that time for about 4 years in ice cream for Mars where we didn't know everything that we were doing. And that meant that I had to understand the business better in order to figure out what insights work to do. I think that was my first step into literally trying to understand the business that all my partners were. What's the P&L of an ice cream? How do you make money? Something as simple as, if you create ice creams that are, in our case, leaf-shaped, and you package them, you ship 1/3 air, not 100% ice cream.
Yeah.
That costs money. So I started to flip my way of looking at it. And I think that then made it easier for me later as I walked into my role at Levi's, which again also started as Insights. So it became strategy. We were trying to figure out how to write the brand. I had enough of an understanding and empathy for some of the business challenges that we had. And I could understand more about what does it take to get the distribution to work? What are some of the components that go into actually building a successful business? So I adjusted my approach to Insights. And suddenly found myself sitting as part of the leadership team. I think you asked about my philosophy. I don't think I had a philosophy at that point in time. I just worked bloody hard and realized that to get close to people, I had to understand the business they were in so that I could do something for them.
Yep.
I think I started talking about how my unique contribution, and I think we all need to think about what's our unique contribution to the business. Mine was making other people better. So yes, you're part of building for decision making when you come from an insight background, but actually it's about making other people better. And I don't mean that with any degree of humility at all. I mean it as that is my unique contribution to the business.
Yep.
And I can only do that if I know what they're about, and then I will go away and figure out what it is that needs to be done. You know, I was talking to somebody earlier, and we were talking about what should you do to build an insights function. And I did say to them that, listen, the one thing that I would advise is, do not ask anybody what it is they think they want. Because if they knew what they wanted, they would have built it already. They would already have it. Right? You figure out what business are they in, what are the issues they're facing, what do they need to achieve, and then you work out, either on your own, with your team if you have one, with your network, how you get there. I think we built a foundation of insights. A very good foundation of insights that takes you all the way from drivers and trends, market understanding, consumer understanding, possession, with drivers of that. If you always have that at hand, you can engage in conversation with stakeholders, with partners, at any moment in time. It allows you to work out what point of view do you have to the business. So most insights people take it to a point of project.
Yes.
That's short term. I was going to say that's a mistake. It's not true. It's not a mistake if you're responding to a specific request and if you're a technician, but it doesn't help to influence the business. And then you're not in strategy.
Yeah, it becomes very reactive.
It's reactive, and frankly, you don't deserve a seat at the table.
That's a great perspective. I think we've heard this kind of seat at the table conversation for as long as I've been in Insights, which is over a decade, nowhere near as long as yourself, but it's something that came up more and more, and I think that there's definitely leaders that are kind of paving the way and showing how that should be done, and kind of what you've just outlined.
It's not, I have to say, it starts with attitude, right?
Yeah.
It starts with, in some ways you can say, what's your frame of reference? So as an Insights leader, how do you think about yourself? Are you a business person? Or are you an insights person?
Yeah.
And unless you think about yourself as a business person and a business leader, you won't get this information.
Yeah, it's funny in Insights we seem to a lot of people put a box around themselves. I'm a market researcher or a leader. It's I can see that a lot. Thinking about where we're headed in the future, obviously there's always been a constant change, but it feels at this time in our lives there's more change than ever, technologically driven. Brands are trying to understand AI. You've got things like agentic shopping coming along and all kinds of things there. What are you most optimistic about when it comes to kind of the impact of AI over the next few years? And what are some areas where you think there's need for pause?
That's a big question.
It's a big question for a 15-minute episode.
It's a big question. A lot of people trying to grapple with it. I think first, worth acknowledging part of what you said, which is changing this concept. And I actually think that one of the biggest changes in Insights was when we went from pen and paper interviewing, face-to-face in halls, to online interviewing.
Yep.
That was a massive shift. Online consumer panels was a massive shift. Big data, which we all stopped talking about, which is now turned into platforms, was a massive shift. AI is another massive shift. It's a big going to be transformative. And I think the way that AI is shaping or reshaping, especially obviously online interviewing, part of it is just helpful in the speed with which we can act.
Yep.
I think part of it will enable quite average insights people, quite average marketeers or brand people to do all those functional, boring questionnaires that we have done through time. They'll be able to be done cheaply, they'll be done efficiently. I don't think they'll, might be wrong to say, but I don't think they'll add much more value than they did in the old days. But they're cheaper and they're faster.
Yep.
It should liberate the insights function away from a lot of the dross that we've been getting ourselves into, to a place where the people who will survive, the people who will be great with their insights, are the ones who genuinely take the time to add up their own observation of the marketplace, their own observation of the brands and consumers, and put all the traditional insights tools into one and build a point of view about what the business and the brand should do. It should change the shape of insights. I would have thought that if you had previously had a pyramid with very few people at the top, a few north, a few in the middle, and a bunch of people at the bottom, I think the ones at the middle will disappear.
Our interest in the middle.
I think the middle is because I think a lot of the people at the bottom, the ones who code questionnaires or write questionnaires, or write surveys or press the buttons, they're still going to be needed. AI and online tools are not going to do interviews by themselves.
Yeah.
But I think the ones in the middle, the ones who are pretending that they're strategically minded, but really aren't. I think honestly, I think they'll go. So I think we'll get a different shape of the Insights organization. And in all fairness, I'm thinking client-side structure at this point, not instance structure.
Yeah. No, I mean it's definitely gonna change the shape of things. I think I hadn't considered that kind of middle, as you say, that bunch of people that are
don't need them.
Middle management aren't as strategic as they perhaps think they are. But yeah, it's definitely it's gonna transform things for sure. And what about areas of pause? I mean, we've seen a lot at the moment talking about things like sample quality being a challenge. You've things like synthetic sample being a big hot topic, debating point. Where do you stand on the synthetic sample debate?
So a couple of things. I think that synthetic personas, if directed at a cache of data that you have generated yourself and you can quality control, excellent way to make sure you don't lose the work that has happened within your control over time. So one of my biggest frustrations has always been new people come into an organization, it's back to year fucking zero again.
Let's run a new study.
Absolutely. So I think that can become incredibly helpful. Once you start directing it to the broader world, it gets more problematic.
Okay.
Not just because of hallucination, but also because a lot of AI tools, even some of the more expensive ones, they're making things up, right? So we've been experimenting with using it to write reports in an innovation process. And actually what happens is it'll write stuff and it won't tell you that it made it up. So it's still quite difficult to use.
Yeah.
So I think there's something about, we all believe in the magic a little bit,
Yep.
but actually magic sometimes it's not there.
Yeah, for sure.
Massive cost.
Yeah, I think there's definitely situations where that hallucination can actually drive creativity on the innovation side and make connections. But when you're dealing with real truths of what is the data as 0 and 1s, that's, I think, where hallucinations become a real problem. So thinking about, as you said, that insights organization of the future, looking at the middle layer, you talked a lot about your journey from insights to strategy and how you kind of truly understood the business you were in, not just a researcher. But any more advice for leaders kind of earlier in their career? Like, what would be your kind of 3 top tips for someone that's kind of aspiring to make that jump, to make sure they aren't left behind in that wave and do become part of that kind of top tier strategist?
So I think it's worth remembering first that people believe people. So therefore, you need to build belief in yourself and who you are. And you do that by getting close to the people who you want to influence.
Yep.
One of the tools that I've always used, which has worked well, is we work out who our key relationships are. Each individual person has a large set of named key relationships, people whom they need to understand, they need to understand their issues, and they need to get close to them to bring all the insights together and serve it up as solutions.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that individuals learn out there, more junior or more senior, need to practice.
Okay.
That gives them a root in to the organization. And then don't think silos in terms of my survey, that survey. Think about what you can pull together. The last thing I will say is one thing I learned early in my career was whenever you discover something great, whether or not it's an insight or a technique or a tool, whenever you discover something great, give it away. Give it to somebody else so they can run with it.
Yeah.
And I'll extend it to something trivial. I've seen lots of insights organizations all the time. That's basically branding their charts so that people know it's been done by insights. Who cares?
Yeah.
Your job is to give it to somebody else. Be generous with whatever you do. If it's great, give it away. Give it to somebody else so they can claim it as theirs. That's when you individually are winning in making other people better.
Yeah. That's I think some people definitely miss
Because they
that.
get scared. They get scared. That's why they want to brand themselves. They want their brand on the chart. In
Yeah.
the old days, how can we put our brand on the chart so they can't take it off?
Yeah.
I think we should only send them PDFs.
Yeah. Well, I think our natural demand for instant gratification, which has become even more, has become, as I say, people focus too much on the short term. Fleming, this has been fantastic, really useful, really insightful. Obviously, we've got a day and a half left. Hope you have a great rest of the conference, and thank you for being a guest.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I hope you heard something new.
Yeah, really good. Thank you.
Take
Cheers.
care. Bye.